Howdy, Immortalium here, and today is another discussion video. I haven't done a discussion video for a while now. If you've actually looked at my discussion video playlist, I've actually added a good few things in recently, but the last kind of true discussion video that I consider I've done was that, why aren't sports manga popular in the West? And, I was kind of thinking to myself today, oh, I should do another discussion video, and I'm kind of racking my brain, what should I cover? And when you're trying to force an idea into your head, you're kind of, it doesn't really work, but I kept at it and I was just thinking, oh, what can I cover? And then all of a sudden, it just hit me. What I consider to be the most underestimated aspect of the kind of graphic novel medium, not just manga, but like the medium itself, and that is panel work. I've seen a lot of manga reviews on YouTube and, and on written websites, etc. And I see them cover the characters, the artwork, the story, etc. But it's not too often. Occasionally I see it, but not too often to actually see people covering the panel work, the way that the panels are shaped and conveyed, etc. Because panel work is very much used to convey emotion, to convey ideas and themes to, the reader. So, I just thought, why not give it a bit of a coverage? It'll also explain why I kind of prefer manga to, Western graphic novels. Not that I, dislike Western graphic novels, but I do definitely find paneling in Western graphic novels to be more basic. So, having said that, the first example I'm going to show you is actually a Western graphic novel. It's considered one of the best Western graphic novels, and that is Bone. As you can see from the top, it is, considered by Time magazine to be one of the 10 greatest graphic novels of all time. I read this about last year, a huge whopper of a thing as well. I think it's like 1,300 pages, and I enjoyed it. It was good. But one thing that really disappointed me was the use of paneling in it. What I mean by that is the majority of the pages are just simply this. If you can see, just basically 2 panels at top, 2 panels at the middle, and 2 panels at the bottom. All, the same shape and size. And that's the majority of the pages. Now, there are variations on that, where, but all those panels, the variations are just simply by combining certain panels. Like, for example, let's take this page for instance. So, that top panel is simply made by combining the, top 2 panels. Another example. So, this page then is just, combining the top 4 panels into one. So it's just kind of a variation on that. And I found that, for something that was considered to be one of the greatest graphic novels of all time, I found that to be a very disappointing aspect of it. So, that's one of the reasons why I kind of veer away from Western graphic novels. But as recently, they have kind of begun to improve upon that, but the use of panel work is still very basic in comparison to, manga itself. So, let's discuss a couple of other examples of, panel work in the manga medium itself. So, I'll start off with, perhaps the man who introduced the idea of dynamic paneling. In fact, actually, he did introduce the use of dynamic paneling. I'll just give you an example. Basically, what I was about to cover was Blackjack, but before I do that, I just thought that there is an important example of Osamu Tezuka introducing, dynamic paneling into manga, and that was there was a manga he published. I think it was after he published Mysterious Underground Men, and that was New Treasure Island. And I think it opens up with these 4 panels that are working down, but each one is kind of like working further and further out from the character. So it's kind of like a pullback, kind of a camera pullback in a movie, which I found really cool. So anyway, considering some of Osamu Tezuka's panel work, because of the fact that he was dealing with kind of a growing medium throughout much of his career, a lot of his panel work did kind of start out basic. In fact, for anyone who has seen the Mysterious Underground Men review, you will see that a lot of the panel work in that is simply just 3 panels kind of working across, and that's it. You know, it's a very simple thing. There's a couple of variations in it, and a couple of signs that, you know, he is a man who will kind of revolutionize panel work in the medium, but overall it was still kind of basic. Now, cut forward to Blackjack, and all of a sudden you start to see some very dynamic panel works. So a panel technique that Osamu Tezuka uses very frequently, particularly in his later works, is this kind of a diagonal technique. If I have to give you an example, here's one. Okay, so basically this is the second story in the first volume of Blackjack, and that is this page. And this is a technique that he uses very commonly throughout his manga. That is to start the panels, pretty much all of the panels, starting at one corner of the page, and you just kind of strike it out. And having done that, like in this one, for instance, this is kind of dealing with almost like a ghost person, and it creates a great sense of unease in, you know, oneself, which I find, you know, to be a very effective use. Not only that, turn the next page over. Actually, there was a very brief, kind of small example of this in The Mysterious Underground Men, but this is another use of panel work that I find really engaging, and that is breaking out of the panel. So if you see Blackjack is driving his car, and he's actually driving out from the panel, like the panel is working here, but his car actually exceeds it. That kind of gives it a sense of breadth. In particular, since the car is actually driving towards the viewer, so the fact that it's actually coming out of the panel gives it a great sense of 3 dimensions, considering the fact it's 2-dimensional drawing. So yeah, that's something I want to cover. Not only that, but there's also a panel work. I think I mentioned this in a live stream I did back. I think it was not last March. Was it last March? Yeah, it was last March. Sorry, and that was a bit where Tezuka, in Swallowing the Earth, I'll just show you the book, conveyed a battle on a boat. Here's the example. So what I really love is, okay, so as you can see from this page, you know, the boat is rocking back and forth, and the characters are fighting on that boat. So what does Tezuka do? He actually slants the panels, and they're actually slanting over each other in order to convey, you know, the rocking of the boat back and forth. You know, so we have it going there, and we have there, going down there, and down there, and actually this panel is covering that panel. So I find that, you know, a really great sense to, a great way, sorry, I should say, to convey that sense of unease, you know, of the rocking of the boat and the characters fighting each other and the fact that they're constantly falling over. So, as a panelist, Tezuka was very much at the top of his league, and even though, as I said before, that when he started out, a lot of the panel work was basic because he was dealing with, you know, a growing medium. You know, he was a pioneer of paneling. That's the best way to put it. Now, something that I've also highly praised is the panel work from a certain mangaka called Kaiko Takamiya in Tetera. Now, I've also done a review of this manga, and I would recommend you check out the review. I will probably include a link of it in the description, so check that out. But there is a piece of... Okay, this is the third and final volume of the manga, so I have to be very careful what I show you here. But there's always been this one specific shot that I absolutely love. Now, the best way to describe this is comparing this to, you know, the film genre. When you do an edit in a film, you always have this risk of, you know, pulling the viewer out of the story. You know, because of the fact that it suddenly snaps to another shot, it can kind of make you go, oh wait, what? Oh yeah, I'm actually watching something. I'm not in the world, so which, you know, is always a risk. So they're always trying to do these kind of things, you know, to try to flow the shots into each other and make sure that, you know, they never lose your attention. And here's a really good example of that applying to manga. So basically near the end, there's this kind of a volcanic eruption happening, and you know, a lot of damage is being done, and people are climbing up a mountain. The very next shot, is this shot where you can see the people climbing up the mountain, do you see? But then just simply, instead of actually, you know, breaking that into its own panel and then making another panel for the space shot, it just simply flows into the space shot. So the mountain itself actually becomes the top of space. So I've always found that to be an amazing shot, and I think I pointed out in that video as well, because I just found that you know, to be just an amazing shot. It's one of the most fluid shots from a manga I've ever seen. Now there's a lot of dynamic paneling in this series, using diagonals to convey action, etc., etc. Actually, I'll cover that in another one, but you know, I would say Kaiko Takemiya, if you can get anything from her, even if you're not into the story or, you know, her art style, I'm sure for her use of paneling will enormously impress you. Now, the example I was going to use for what I was just covering a moment ago with the, you know, diagonals used to convey action is shonen. And I was considering whether or not to make an actual, you know, pick an actual action manga, but then I thought it might be best to just simply show you that it isn't always necessarily needing to apply to action manga, it just simply applies to action. So here's Cross Game, which is, you know, a sports manga that I started recently and I immensely enjoyed. I need to pick up more of this, but I still have a good bit to read, so I'm going to read those first and then pick up some stuff. But anyway. This is about baseball, and as you can imagine, baseball very much has to do with, you know, running around, throwing the ball, you know, a lot of movement, etc., etc. And like, let's just take this page for instance. So, do you see like the way that the characters are running around, and you know, the ball is being hit and everything? It's just a, you know, the use of diagonals in that it just simply it conveys the sense of movement, the sense of speed, and the sense of you know, characters actually doing something. Gives it a great dynamism in comparison to you know, relatively more tame drawings, like for example this, which is just simply the characters you know, just talking to each other, which is perfectly fine. But once you get to a kind of more actiony thing, you should definitely start applying more dynamic paneling to it, more diagonals, etc., etc. Just give it a sense of dynamism. So I've always really, you know, I started appreciating that only relatively recently, actually. And then just the last thing I kind of want to cover with panel work is kind of shoujo manga. There's been this. Actually, I better explain this bit. There was this group called the Year 24 group that was set up. I can't remember when they were exactly set up. It was around the 70s, I believe, when they started actually drawing manga and getting into it. But they were all born in 1949, from what I remember, and they kind of revolutionized the way that shoujo manga was drawn and conveyed. Up to that point, it was pretty much all, you know, just male mangaka, and, you know, they just drew about tepid stuff and all that. But they started introducing some, you know, sexual elements to it, some more very romantic elements. But not only that, but they also revolutionized the way that the actual panel work works. Like, for example, you know, blending images together, which you kind of saw a bit of in Totera just there. But I just thought I would show you some other examples from a more modern manga. So I'm sure plenty of you have heard about Full Moon. In fact, I've done a review of that as well. In fact, I should probably include links to any reviews I've done of these series. So anyway, you know, you can check that out in the description. So anyway, if I were to get you an example of that, here's a great shot. So you have your lead character down here, and you have the character that she's thinking of up here, but rather than breaking them apart, it just simply you know, flows from one image into another. You know, you obviously start from the top reading it, then you work down, and it's just conveyed a sense of closeness there, the sense of attachment that she has. If you broke the two panels apart, you know, that would kind of put some distance between them, but the fact that they're both together, actually interestingly, they both are holding the same item, I believe. But anyway, it just really does bring the central theme kind of home. So, you know, I absolutely love that kind of shoujo style manga work. In fact, I've kind of found that shoujo manga is actually among the most, and I guess, you know, Jose kind of hops into that as well, to be among the most inventive of, you know, the panel work that I've seen. So, for example, there's this shot right here where, you know, you have her kind of spotting this character just sitting on a thing, and, you know, like, again, to kind of convey the closeness of the characters, there aren't actually broken, there's no panel work in between them, it's just simply flows from seeing him to, you know, the shot of her just looking at him. So, you know, that's kind of just all I wanted to cover. Like, panel work, it really does concern me sometimes when I see people, you know, critiquing manga, and, you know, they discuss, you know, the actual characters, the actual story, the actual art, and things like, hell no, I've, in fact, I'm sure, in plenty of the reviews that you'll probably see, a lot of these are kind of older series I reviewed, and I'm pretty sure I didn't touch on the panel work in them, and I really regret not doing that, because you know, paneling is very much, you know, one of the most important things in, you know, graphic novels. And I'm sure that when a lot of people start, you know, drawing, you know, graphic novels, a lot of people look at their work and they kind of go, oh, you know, that looks pretty bland. And, you know, you're kind of trying to figure out to yourself, you know, oh, you know, why is my artwork, you know, so bland? And it's like probably because of the fact that it's just simply the 6 pictures in squares just there, and you know, kind of no dynamism at all. So, you know, I just really do think that it's an area that needs to be kind of touched more upon in you know, manga reviews and manga discussions, etc., etc. You know, the use of panels and how that, you know, kind of affects the reader. So yeah, that's kind of my discussion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you didn't consider it boring or anything. I'm pretty sure that you guys were entertained, but, you know, I would love to hear your kind of feedback on this, and also I would love to hear your kind of comparison of manga to Western graphic novels, because that I have actually found, ever since I started reading manga, I've found it kind of difficult to get into Western graphic novels now, simply because of the panel work. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on the matter, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. And again, I will include the links to the you know, the series that I discussed in this in the description below. But considering that a lot of them are, you know, some older reviews I did, I'm pretty sure that I don't discuss the panel work in them. So yeah, forgive me on that. I have, you know, I was only fledgling back then, I guess. Just take a look at the date. That's the best way to look at it, like when it was published, and you'll see. Anyway, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.